We're back here on Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WBNN. You already know I'm Alabama's voice of reason. And yes, we already know what the sport is called. It's called soccer. I'm sorry, football. I'm sorry. Dale Jackson has a directive for anyone who hosts on this station. We must call it football or football instead of soccer. And if you catch me saying soccer and you let us know on the Yaffee text line, you could win a T-shirt, one of the WVNN T-shirts. So and make sure to say it to Dale that Yaffee, tell on me, I guess, to Dale on the text line. Say, Dale, Yaffee did it. So, and I did it a couple of, oopsie daisy, I did it again. Oh no. By the way, I said a couple minutes ago, you need a voice of reason when it comes to this birthright citizenship issue. So it's the end of the Supreme Court term. We've had several big decisions, and there are a couple that I agree with and a couple I disagree with. Obviously, I agree with the decision by the Supreme Court that Trump should be able to fire those in the FTC because he's the head of the executive branch. It's part of the executive branch. Obviously, I disagree with the idea that somehow the Federal Reserve is separate from that, and Trump can't fire a Federal Reserve governor. So we have now basically, through the courts, made the Federal Reserve a fourth branch of government, which to me is kind of ridiculous. Now, I agree with their decision that states can ban transgenders from sports. And when I say that, I mean you can ban biological men from women's sports. So they got that decision right. And obviously, I disagree with the decision on birthright citizenship, although Justice Brett Kavanaugh made a good point that it's not necessarily unconstitutional to ban it. It's just you can't do it through executive order, which I think he makes a really good point there. Now, the reason I say you need a voice of reason, one, you have the left, all of a sudden, they love the court. Out of nowhere, they just love it. We have been hearing for a while that we need to pack the court. They're just a rubber stamp for Trump. Can we end that nonsense now? It was never true, but there should be more evidence that it's not true. Now, just so you know, the radical Democrats, those in the party, they're not going to end the nonsense. They still want to do it. But I have to admit, some on the right, including some I respect and like, have gone a little bit crazy on this too, including Tuberville. So a couple of things I've heard. They're really mad at Amy Coney Barrett because she was the one most recently appointed by Trump, and they thought she would be better than this, I guess. But Matt Walsh comes out there and says Amy Coney Barrett is no better than Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, I understand we have this obsession now with getting attention wherever it is on social media, and we say things that are edgy just to get more attention. But we all know that's not true, right? Amy Coney Barrett ruled to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's not the same as Ketanji Brown. It's just not the same. They're not the same. We can admit that we disagree with someone and also admit there's still overall pretty good justice. I don't know why it's so difficult to do. I really don't. But the other thing I've heard is that Amy Coney Barrett must be scared. Since the protests and the threats on the lives of the justices, she's now scared. Now, some people are calling that accusation sexist. I don't know if it is or not, but it's also very dumb. It's this idea, if you're really just scared of the mob out there, you're not going to vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, which she did. So it would be weird to do that and then now be changing. I don't buy that argument. Now, when it comes to the argument itself, I posted on Facebook and X yesterday but I'll say it again, because to me, it's just the main point here. I said, I know I'm just a simpleton and not a lawyer, but it just doesn't make sense for the framers of the 14th Amendment to put, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, if it just didn't mean anything. Why would you put that? Obviously, they believe there should be some limits on who can become a citizen, even if they're born here. That's why they put that. It's obvious. It's in the text. So it's time to have a debate in Congress. I'm putting some limits in there. So that was my point. Now, a lot of people are responding. And, you get a response like this, If you don't understand the concept of under the jurisdiction of, it basically means that they are persons subject to the laws of the land. The two major exceptions of persons who are in the United States and are foreign diplomats and their families and citizens of countries that we are at war with. So I heard stuff like that. Well, it just meant Native Americans and foreign diplomats. And that's it. That's why they put that there. Are we crazy? Do you honestly think the framers of the 14th Amendment put that there because, foreign diplomats? But everyone else is fine, just foreign diplomats. Now, there are people at the time who voted for that amendment and said that the original intention, we all know, and Justice Clarence Thomas made this point, we all know why the 14th Amendment was put in place. It was to make sure that former slaves could not have their citizenship taken away by the Jim Crow South. Now, that doesn't mean it only includes that, but Thomas made the point as well. Usually it was understood that by under the jurisdiction thereof, you're talking about people who are properly domiciled here. That word's been coming up. Now it's everywhere. But it means you have some connection to the land, to the country. Obviously, that would not include illegal immigrants who came to the country illegally and should not be here and should be deported. All of a sudden, their kids are citizens? So I tend to think Clarence Thomas is right. Now, Justice Brett Kavanaugh made the good point, though, that, look, it's not necessarily unconstitutional to add more limits to what is considered under the jurisdiction thereof, but it's up to Congress to pass a law on that, not just to have it by executive order. And I think he makes a good point. That's why we have seen some, including those in Alabama and right here, saying basically the same thing. In fact, let me read what Congressman Barry Morse said about it. He said, President Donald Trump is right. The Birthright Supreme Court ruling makes it clear Congress must act. Birthright citizenship has become an incentive for illegal immigration and birth tourism. It's time to pass legislation that ends this loophole and puts America first. We cannot afford to wait any longer. He's right on that. Now, when it comes to birth tourism, we've heard a lot of people talk about that, including Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. In fact, let me go ahead and get to that cut here because he had mentioned it. Walker, do you have the audio ready by chance?
I do.
So go ahead and play the Speaker, the Mike Johnson cut I sent you if you have it.
This has been grossly abused in recent years, okay? And that is the case that was being made by the plaintiffs in the case, and we're very sympathetic to that because it is a serious problem. We have it's become a birthing tourism, they call it. I'm very disappointed in that outcome. I think it subjects the country to serious challenges going forward, and we'll have to deal with it as a Congress.
So he basically mentions that too, where you have people that are not citizens. They somehow get a tourist visa. They come over here just to have babies. Their babies automatically are citizens, and then they go back overseas, and then those babies are radicalized wherever they came from as they grow up, and then they want to come back here as citizens. Now, it's my understanding that about only 26,000 babies are born that way in the U.S., which is a very, very small fraction of the 3 million babies that are born in the U.S. every year. But it's still a problem, and there are ways to enforce it. And in fact, Tom Homan talked about that as well. Go on to play, he's the border czar. Go on to play the Tom Homan cut for me, Walker.
You're exactly right. The first thing I saw the decision, which I don't agree with, is okay, now we step up enforcement. We step up more enforcement. Even though we're doing record amounts of enforcement now, we need to do more. And not only that, we need to, really buckle down on birth tourism. We have many investigations on birth tourism, but we need to quadruple down on that. And look, I agree with Judge Alito. First of all, I've been doing this since 1984. That's when I started in Border Patrol. This birthright citizenship has always been a major driver for illegal immigration. During the Biden administration, the Yuma Hospital, the El Paso Hospital, 100% maternity beds are illegal aliens. That's not a coincidence. That's not by accident. But it's always been a drive for illegal immigration. But more importantly, it's a national security issue because the birth tours investigation I'm aware of, you got nationals from China and Russia coming here by the thousands, having a baby and leaving. Now, so we have U.S. citizens by the thousands and this continued by the millions living in countries that I think are adversaries to us that can come here and have an impact on how this country is run. So it's a national security issue, a huge proportion that we need to address. And I hope Congress does it.
So he's right. Congress needs to address it, and they need to step up enforcement. Now, on the enforcement side as well, you have Tom Homan talking about it, but also the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche. I mentioned this in a press conference this week. Play the Todd Blanche cut for me.
From a Department of Justice standpoint, it's obviously focusing our prosecutors and our law enforcement partners on birthing tourism, and it's a booming industry, and it will continue. It will continue given the Supreme Court's decision yesterday. There's other things that DHS can do and the federal government can do in the visa process and the application process to try to minimize or limit the opportunity of folks coming here to not to visit and not to do what they're saying they're doing on their tourist visa, but just to have a baby that can then be a U.S. citizen. So from our standpoint, it's focusing on what is a problem. So everybody should agree that it's a violation of our laws if your intent in coming here, if you're pregnant, is to have a child to become a United States citizen because of our now laws. And so what we have to do as the Department of Justice is make sure our agents, our HSI agents that we work with and the FBI are focused on stopping that. And that's what we're going to do.
All right. So if you want to weigh in and if you agree that Congress needs to pass something, I know Dale's question of the day is, okay, what would that law look like? I think it's pretty simple. You just define more clearly who is considered a citizen and who is not, but also enforce birthright tourism. You just deny visas based on that method. If you want to weigh in, you can. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We'll get to more of the reaction over this birthright citizenship ruling and some of the other rulings as well. Later on, we have to talk about what's going on with the Iran talks. Yeah, that's still a big story. And what is a veteran? I'll play that piece later on to celebrate our 250th anniversary, which, of course, would not be possible without veterans. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Back in a moment.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Let me read a little bit. I'm going to continue on with this birthright citizenship debate. Believe it or not, we still have a debate over the American flag right now. There are some out there who are worried about displaying the American flag because it's too MAGA, and they would rather display the pride flag on Independence Day. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Someone who's like that just doesn't like the country, I think. Let me read a little bit, though, from Justice Neil Gorsuch, who also dissented on this. He said, after all, the case addressed a child born to parents who lawfully resided in the country, talking about a previous ruling. Still, I wonder, is a child born here to parents who have long chosen to make this nation their permanent home not a citizen under the 14th Amendment solely because his parents' presence violates statutory law? If those parents are not domiciled here, then where are they domiciled? And if the answer is nowhere, how can we reconcile the conclusion with the court's longstanding recognition that every person is domiciled somewhere? Because the executive order is not facially invalid, these questions may not be properly before us, but their answers are undeniably important to a nation committed to a view of citizenship open to all children born here to parents who can call this country their home. So he talks about a little bit of the ruling there. Go ahead if you can, real quick as well, Walker. Play the Jonathan Turley cut because he was
Actually,
reacting
they can
to
do
this
that.
as well. Go ahead.
Actually, they can do that. The question is how much of an impact it's going to have. It's very difficult to say, well, we're going to crack down on birthright in birth tourism because you have to look at the motivation of why people are giving birth here. Now, sometimes it's easy if they're part of these organizations, particularly Chinese groups that are being paid to bring people in. But otherwise, it becomes a very difficult matter to prove, and certainly difficult on any large scale. So they can certainly pass that type of legislation. The key about the decision today is that Justice Kavanaugh also disagreed that the 14th Amendment allowed for birthright citizenship. And he basically said you do have a legislative route here. One of the more interesting aspects is that this is a 5-4 decision. So if you do get that type of legislation and it's challenged, you don't know what the court's going to look like when it comes back to it. They just fell one vote short today. And Justice Thomas said he doesn't believe that this will withstand the test of time.
I think you might be right on that. Now, let me read a little bit of what Alito said, Justice Alito dissenting. He said, he goes, this is illustrated by the laws of countries on the list of those from which the greatest number of illegal immigrants come. Mexico is at top of that list. And under Mexico's constitution, the child of a Mexican parent can become a Mexican national at birth and acquire certain duties to the government. Among these are obligation to receive military training and join. Basically, he is saying here, he says a great many persons who are born here to illegal immigrants and their parents fail this test because at birth they are automatically made nationals of their parents' native country and as a result incur duties to that country. This means that they are subject to a foreign power and are thus not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States within the meaning of the 14th Amendment. So his point there is that, look, you can't say that a child of an illegal immigrant, say from Mexico, who automatically becomes a Mexican citizen in that instance, well, that means they're subject to the jurisdiction of Mexico. They are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in that regard. They would usually not be included because they're obviously born by foreign nationals who are subject to the jurisdiction of Mexico. They are just in this country illegally, but can still be deported to Mexico. And I think that's a pretty good point by Alito. If you want to weigh in on this, you can. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-4949, 866-866-494-WVNN. Right now, let me weigh in on my good friends at VIP Care. If you are 65 and older, or maybe you have a family member, a friend who is 65 and older, and they are tired of the health care they're getting at their usual doctor, and they want something better, that's why VIP Care exists. They specialize in primary care for adults 65 and older with longer appointments that give patients more time to ask questions, discuss concerns, and focus on their health. Now, they have same-day appointments available as well. 24/7 support, which is awesome. So an on-call provider is available, yes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Convenient all-in-one care. Many of their healthcare services are available all in one location, including routine checkups, lab work, preventative screenings, chronic condition management, and medication support. So I want you to go to the website right now. Make an appointment today. They have locations here in Huntsville and across Alabama. GetVIPCare.com. GetVIPCare.com. See the difference? When you do, let them know Yaffee sent you. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.